Now, starting with the president's negotiation right now with Russia and Ukraine, Trump has said before the Alaska summit he would know within 2 minutes whether Putin was ready to do a deal. This is what he said last night.
What vibe did you get in 2 minutes?
We had a very good meeting today, but we'll see. I mean, it's, you know, you have to get a deal. We agreed on a lot of points. Look, as far as I'm concerned, there's no deal until there's a deal, but we did make a lot of progress.
It doesn't seem like this is going to go as smoothly as Trump always claimed it would be, Congressman.
Well, thank you, Rev, for having me. You know, I welcome President Zelenskyy to Washington, D.C. I think the majority of Americans stand with the people of Ukraine in their fight to save their country and freedom from Russia's invasion. I don't know what personal or financial leverage the president of Russia is holding over President Trump, but the American people expect our leaders to defend democracy and not sell out our friends and allies.
Now, I'm sure that, like all of us, you noticed the difference in how Putin was received in Alaska, with U.S. soldiers rolling out a red carpet for the president of Russia. Then you contrast that with how Ukraine President Zelenskyy was received and ultimately berated in front of the world at the White House earlier this year. European leaders have been reportedly worried that Trump will pressure Ukraine to accept terms that overwhelmingly favor Russia. Then we learned today that the president directly engaged with Zelenskyy and EU leaders by phone this morning to discuss a possible NATO-like security guarantee for Ukraine as a part of the deal struck with Russia. And the news outlet Axios is now reporting that Trump is planning a trilateral summit between Putin and Zelenskyy by August 22nd. Your thoughts on all of these developments, Congressman?
Well, yeah, I think what happened with President Zelenskyy a few months ago was political pageantry. Donald Trump was sending a message to many of our adversaries, in fact, that he's open to negotiations and possible persuasion. The European leaders, Ukraine and the U.S., all discussed consensus goals of any bilateral meeting between President Putin and Trump. And they agreed on some common principles regarding the end of Russia's war against Ukraine. Everything that concerns Ukraine should be discussed only with Ukraine. They should not be excluded from discussions about their survival and their future. And preparations for trilateral negotiations should include the participations of the leaders of Ukraine, the U.S., and Russia. And most importantly, Rev, we need a real ceasefire and security guarantees. Russia should not have the right to veto Ukraine's membership in NATO, and strengthening sanctions should be on the table in the event of Russia's refusal to accept a ceasefire during the Alaska summit.
Now, Putin's visit to Alaska seems to have recharged pro-Ukraine sentiment here in the U.S. You had hundreds of pro-Ukraine protesters in Alaska's capital city of Anchorage yesterday. And in Washington, congressional Republicans are reportedly more open to sending more military aid to Ukraine, taking their cues from the president's less accommodating tone toward Russia. Do you think that will happen in the House, Congressman?
I'm hopeful that we can stand firmly with Ukraine. We've imposed sanctions on Russia, and, you know, sanctions can be very helpful and are hitting the Russian military economy. It's also important that we have to keep in mind that Russia, they may have more weapons, in particular artillery, 3 times more, but Russia also has 3 times more losses. So instead of kowtowing to Putin, I hope President Trump will speak with President Zelenskyy and discuss the results and strategic next steps.
Now, let's get back to domestic issues. I want your thoughts on the Trump administration's takeover of Washington, D.C. Attorney General Pam Bondi last night backed off a move that would have stripped D.C.'s police chief of her power after a legal challenge. However, the administration continues to explore ways to extend their crime-fighting operation beyond the original 30 days and maybe even spread to other cities. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting that National Guard troops deployed to Washington are preparing to carry weapons in the coming days. What are your thoughts on what's been unfolding, Congressman?
Well, Mayor, I'm always concerned about a police state. Mayor Bowser, D.C., just said that crime has gone down, and crime has been down. This administration continues to overreach, and the American people aren't standing for it. The Attorney General's rescinding this order just goes to show that the voice of the people and our resistance efforts are absolutely working. I think that Trump is messaging. I think he's targeting Black cities in particular. I think this could be a greater real estate effort to lower crime for marketing purposes, to be able to sell real estate. So many people have been displaced and are now jobless. This administration continues to reverse its decisions after the people have spoken. And quite frankly, Donald Trump loves symbols. Unfortunately, he's great at it, but those symbols don't make our city safer.
Finally, let's talk the redistricting and battles heating up across the country. Texas and California are the faces of that fight right now. But your home state of Indiana is one of the 15 states Republicans are looking to gerrymander to maintain their House majority. And while the White House is directly pressing for it, reportedly courting dozens of state Republican lawmakers to take it up ahead of midterms, your own district is being reported to be targeted. What can Democrats do to defend it, and what will you do to defend your district?
Look, I'm going to fight tooth and nail in the spirit of Al Sharpton, in the spirit of our leaders who have gone before us to make sure this doesn't happen. Indiana has an independent streak. It always has. This is something that our General Assembly doesn't want. It's something that Republican leaderships don't want. It's something that Democratic leadership doesn't want. And this is something that Hoosiers don't want from either party. Lawmakers from both sides, Rev, of the aisle have made it clear they don't support redistricting 5 years early. We had a local commentator and friend, Abdul Hakim Shabazz. He said it best. This would be erasing Indy's only Black majority seat, even though the district is predominantly white. So you would have to very blatantly splice up Black neighborhoods in my district to even get it to happen. You also have Congressman Frank Mervan, another Democrat, up in the northern Indiana area, representing Gary, Indiana, home of the Jackson family. And I think it's unacceptable. You know, this is a civil rights issue. Redistricting is intentional. It's a calculated effort to silence Black voters. It's an effort to dilute and disenfranchise Black voters. It's not something my constituency will support, and it's not something our entire state thinks is fair. That's on both sides of the aisle, regardless of what the party's doing. But Donald Trump is hoping to woo these legislators, many of them MAGA affiliated, to get them to do his bidding. And if the governor bows down, that'll be most unfortunate. And we're going to see losses for Republicans once they dilute their own districts.
All right. Thank you for being with us, as always, Congressman André Carson of Indiana.